embark on the Great Canadian Farm Tour, it is important to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes and honors the enduring presence of the diverse Indigenous communities across Canada, including the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We acknowledge the deep connection that Indigenous peoples have to the land, waters, resources, and all of agriculture. We express our gratitude for their stewardship and custodianship of these lands for generations. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes that acknowledging the traditional territories we reside and work on is only a small step towards reconciliation. We ask that we all continue to learn more about the Indigenous peoples in these regions, to consider the history and ongoing colonialism on this land, to reflect on how each of us can contribute to reconciliation. Welcome everyone to the next stop on Season 4 of the Great Canadian Farm Tour. We are so excited to have everyone join us today from across Canada. My name is Mercedes Unwin from Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, and I will be your MC for today. Before we get started, we just want to provide a few reminders. For those who want to follow along in French, please use the Boost Lingo link provided in the chat or the description to this YouTube event to access the interpreting services provided today. We ask that everyone is mindful that this is an educational event, so inappropriate conduct happening in the chat, such as spamming and improper comments, will not be tolerated. Throughout the tour, we welcome you to post your questions in the chat to get them answered. We will answer as many questions as possible. The mystery word for your student activity books will appear at the end of this episode, so please stick around. Students, important answers to your student activity books, such as the provincial territorial tree and the meaning of the provincial coat of arms, will be shared during the brain break today. So we're excited to share that with you later on. Finally, we would love to know where everyone is joining us from. Please comment in the chat your school and location. Now we would like to welcome our next tour host of the Great Canadian Farm Tour, Sharon Wright, who is a pumpkin and mixed operations farmer from Newfoundland and Labrador. Say hello, Sharon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sharon Wright, like she said. I'm one of the owners and managers here on Wright's Family Farm, so I want to just invite or welcome you all here today. We're going to talk a bit about our pumpkin patch and some of the other things we do here on the farm.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing a bit about yourself, Sharon. Sharon, is there anything else before we get started that you do on your day-to-day? Is there any other kind of jobs? What is your background? How did you get into farming?
Sure. So I actually grew up in southwestern Ontario on a farm. It was a mixed farm, so we had dairy, we had pigs, and then we had crops to feed those animals. From there, I went to university at the University of Guelph and took a degree in agriculture, which was mostly focused on animals and business and not at all on crops. But about 20 years ago, we moved here to Newfoundland. And 10 years ago, this farm came up for sale. So my husband and I looked at it for a while, and we purchased this farm, and we turned it into Wright's Family Farm. We had lots to learn along the way because crops were not our thing up to that point in time. So now I help out here on the farm. I'm here full-time in the summers, and the rest of the year, actually, I go to school as well. So I am an instructor at the College of the North Atlantic here in Corner Brook, and we have an agriculture technician diploma program there. So it's a 2-year program that you can look at after you're done high school. So I'm one of the teachers of that program. So that's what I do the rest of the year, and help out on the farm evenings and weekends and that sort of thing.
Wow, sounds like you have a very busy schedule.
I do, yes.
So before we get started, Sharon, with a tour of your farm, I was wondering if there was any schools you'd like to say hello to today.
There is actually. Of course, I want to say hello to any of the schools in Newfoundland and Labrador, but I understand that there is possibly some classes here today with us from Eastside in Corner Brook, Pasadena Elementary, which is right here in our hometown, and also in St. John's. I understand there's a class from Rennie's River, and I want to shout out to them because their music teacher, Miss Wright Poulin, is our daughter actually, and she let me know that somebody from there would be listening in as well. So a big hello to all of you, and big shout out to everybody actually for tuning in.
Wonderful. So it's great to have everyone join us today, and thank you, Sharon. I will now hand the controls over to you, Sharon, to get us started on this amazing tour of your pumpkin farm. And then I'll be here returning to help guide any questions that are coming in from our students. So you'll see me pop in and out, so I'll see you in a few minutes, everyone.
Okay, so welcome everyone. This is Wright's Family Farm. We own about 30 acres here, and we're actually a mixed fruit and vegetable farm. But our last big crop of the year is pumpkins, and I'm standing out actually at the far end of our pumpkin patch. You can see over here, this year's pumpkin patch happens to be right next to the highway. So you will get a little bit of noise from trucks and that sort of thing. So this is our pumpkin patch. We grow a number of different varieties of pumpkins out here. In this one, so this is what we call our pumpkin patch. This is where we do our U-pick pumpkin. So if you want to come out to the farm and come out here in the patch and have a look around and pick your favorite pumpkin, you're welcome to do that. We're open, every day until Halloween. This, I know, looks like an awful lot of pumpkins right now. We've actually sold a lot of pumpkins. This has been open since October 1st. So we have sold a lot of pumpkins, and we hopefully will sell a lot more pumpkins. But we have pumpkins of every shape and size. So we have them like this one who looks almost perfectly round. We have all sorts of weird shapes, and that's just the way they grow actually. So we have different shapes, different sizes. We have some that aren't quite ripe yet, so they're a little bit on the green side, but it seems like there are some people who still want green pumpkins and not just orange. So on our farm, we actually grow pumpkins in another field as well. But on our farm, we grow about 10,000 pumpkin plants every year. So we, here in Newfoundland, our growing season is, it's not bad, but it's a little bit short for pumpkins, for some of the varieties of pumpkins. So we're very careful about what varieties we choose. And as well, we start them almost all of them, inside of our greenhouse. So we actually plant the seeds into pots in our greenhouse. And then once we're fairly certain that we're not going to get any more frost, which is usually right around the time you guys finish school, so the end of June, then we come out and we take all those little plants and we plant them in the ground out here. They grow into big bushy plants. Now,
Sharon, sorry to interrupt your thought, but we have a question coming in from Layden.
Okay.
And
Sure.
Layden asks, how big can a pumpkin grow?
Oh, well, that's a really good question. It actually depends on the varieties. So the biggest ones that we grow in a good season, probably the biggest one we grow is a variety that is called Early Giant, and they'll grow up to 30 to 40 pounds, I would say, which is going to be bigger than some of maybe your smallest students. There are pumpkins that can grow. Now they're a special pumpkin. We don't grow any of them, but there are varieties that are giant pumpkin varieties, and those are the big ones that will grow up to hundreds and even to 1,000 pounds sometimes. Those are the ones where they hollow them out and people can get inside them and things like that. They're really hard to grow. They're tricky to grow, and you have to do some special things with them. So we don't actually grow any of those, but there is a farmer here on the West Coast who grows a couple of them every year, and they're massive pumpkins. They're very exciting. So I guess The pumpkin plants, it's hard to see the pumpkin plants now because we're so late in the season. But you can sort of see a little bit of a pumpkin plant here. They're pretty, the vines are pretty much died down and the leaves have all kind of turned brown and shriveled up on us. But, so we plant those pumpkins in rows out here, and then we look after them, and they give us all these lovely orange pumpkins that we have out here.
Another question, Sharon, from Miss Gardner's class. How many pumpkins do you get from each plant?
That's also a good question. So again, depends a little bit on the variety, but a lot of the different varieties, especially the ones that grow bigger pumpkins, will only give you 1 pumpkin per plant. Some of the smaller varieties, and by smaller, I mean like they grow pumpkins that are about 8 to 10 pounds, so maybe 4 kilos, somewhere in there. Some of those will give you 2 pumpkins per plant. So we say on average we get about 1.5 pumpkins per plant. Some will give us 1, some will give us 2. The only exception to that is the little wee tiny baby ones, and they give us probably anywhere from 6 to 10 per plant, but we don't plant, so we don't have to plant as many of those. So as you can see, you might have noticed, we also have out here in the pumpkin patch, you might have noticed this pipe running through the patch, and on the pipe we have a sprinkler. So this is a sprinkler head on the pipe. So pumpkins, like a lot of fruit, because a pumpkin actually is a fruit, pumpkins, like a lot of fruit, need a lot of water. So this is an irrigation pipe that we have. So there's a couple of them in this field. So this is a way that we can get water out here. Even if we have a dry summer, we have a big pump, so we can force water out here through the pipes. And then the sprinkler, it's almost like a garden sprinkler, like the kind that goes around in a circle. And it's just like a big one of those. And so we can come out, we can turn on the water, and we can get lots of water out here to the pumpkins. And it just helps them grow. The other thing we use the water for is in the fall of the year, when we have all these nice pumpkins, we don't want to have a frost and have our pumpkins frozen, because that damages the pumpkins. So on a night when it's going to be really cold and frosty, we will come out in the nighttime and put water on the pumpkins to keep them from freezing in the nighttime air. So as you can see, we have all different sizes and shapes.
Sharon, sorry to interrupt your thought, but we have a question from Lily. How do you know when a pumpkin is ready to be picked? Is it just ready once it's orange?
Yes. So a lot of the pumpkins, of course, not all of them, but a lot of them are green first, and then they turn orange. There is a couple varieties that we grow that are orange, sort of yellowish orange right from the start. But the other thing is they could be orange, but they still might not be quite ready. So you want them to cure a little bit, is what we call it. So basically, let me see if I can do this. Basically, you want to stick your thumbnail just into the pumpkin a little bit. And if it doesn't sink in, if you can't poke your fingernail into it, then it's probably ready. So we thought that these were all ready, or mostly ready at least. So one of the things we do before we open our pumpkin patch is we come out and we actually cut them all off the vines. So as you can see, it's a nice smooth cut on their stems. They're not attached to the vines anymore. And we really just do that because just to make it easier for our customers. So if you come in and you find the perfect pumpkin, you don't have to fight with the vines and rip it off and maybe risk breaking the handle off of your perfect pumpkin. So we'll cut those cut those handles off first so that you don't have to worry so much about that. So you can see there are some smaller ones here, and here are a couple of bigger ones. This happens a lot where people come in and they're looking for that perfect pumpkin, and so they take a couple pumpkins and set them off to the side and compare them, and then just take the one that they like the best. So it's a big deal picking your pumpkin. It's kind of like, you know, if you go out and pick a Christmas tree, it's the same kind of thing. You got to get the perfect one.
And this is the perfect question for you, Sharon. Dwayne is wondering if you pick all your pumpkins by hand.
We do pick all of our pumpkins by hand. So this field here is what we call the U-pick field. So this is for people to come in and pick their own pumpkins. But we also have a couple other fields that we had pumpkins in, and we actually do pick them all by hand. So we go through, we do the same thing. We cut the vines off of them, and then we pick them up and put them in big wooden bins, and then we bring them home here to this farm. And some of them are sold as wholesale, meaning that they go to other farms or other grocery stores, people that are looking for pumpkins. And some of them are here in bins up by our market, which I'll show you in a minute, because sometimes people don't want to go out in the field and pick their own pumpkin.
Now, Sharon, we're actually just going to take a brief pause for our brain break to learn a little bit more about the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and then we'll just get back shortly afterwards so that you can continue your tour with us. So see everyone in a minute and a half.
Sounds good.
And we are back with Sharon, who's going to be sharing more with us about your farm operation.
Yeah, so one last thing, I guess, about the pumpkins is I just got a little assortment here to show you some of the different kinds of pumpkins that we grow. So we have the regular orange one over here in all different shapes and sizes. We also grow these white ones, again, all different shapes and sizes, but they're kind of cool because they're a little bit different and people really like them for decorating. This one in the middle is actually yellow. If you're thinking that looks a little bit yellow, it is. It's a variety called lemonade, and it is yellow. And then we also grow these little mini pumpkins, little tiny ones down here, in a couple different shapes and sizes as well. So that's just some of the variety of pumpkins that we grow on the farm.
Sharon,
yes.
Becca has a question. What's your favorite kind of pumpkin?
My favorite kind of pumpkin. I still like the orange ones best, but I like a nice round shaped orange pumpkin. I guess that's my favorite. It's nice. It's nice to see them. You know, we drive around and we see people with pumpkins on their step, and so I'm sure they're not all from us, but I know some of them are. So it is nice to see people have the orange ones and the white ones and the yellow ones and kind of a mixture of all of them. They make a really nice little decoration on your porch. So I guess one of the other things we do as pumpkin time is we do a couple weekends of what we call pumpkin festival, where we kind of have extra things on the go. People come and pick out pumpkins, and one of the things we do is we have this little ride that kids can go on. Behind it there, you can see a bit of a cornfield that we let people basically run through. We cut a maze into it, but it's not very big, so it never seems to last all that long before it just gets really trampled down. So we just call it running in the cornfield instead. And we have a few places where you can take some pictures. This is our corn cob here. So as you can see, you can run up and get your picture taken in the corn cob. We have a growth chart a little further down there where you can come and take your picture every year and see how much you've grown from the year before. And this is our little market and our little market setup here. So this red building is our market. This is where we sell probably 80% of everything that we produce on our farm, not just pumpkins, but everything else as well. And so at this time of year, we put a fence across so people can't drive right up to the market, and we fill this full of pumpkins. I know we've been doing school tours, so any of the schools that have been here have seen the lots of pumpkins. We have a wagon there that we use for school tours, but also during our festival where we give wagon rides around the farm as well. So we just try and decorate things up a little bit, show off our pumpkins. We have a sleigh, so we use a sleigh for our white pumpkins because, white, snow, sleigh. That's how we got to that. So we also do that. We do a barbecue on those special weekends and things like that as well.
Sharon, Bethany wants to know, what is the most people you have seen in one day for pumpkin picking?
So it might have been this past Saturday, actually, but we have had times where we've had 1,500 to 2,000 people here on the farm in one day for pumpkin picking and rides and running through the corn maze and things like that. So like I said, we have a number of we say that we grow about 30 different products here on the farm, fruits and vegetables. We start with strawberries. We have raspberries, blueberries. This is a bin of apples. We're bagging up, so we're not quite finished bagging up the apples yet. But we have apples. We have all different kinds of squash. So some of it is out here. And I'll just give you a quick look inside our market. So as you can see, we have some leafy green stuff like kale. We have lots of carrots. We grow lots of carrots. We've got tomatoes. There's Jade. She's working in the market today. We do have our own jams and pickles and things like that. We've got all kinds of different kinds of squash and things. We have potatoes and cucumbers and cabbage and all the things you'd expect to see at this time of year. One of the other things we have that you maybe don't expect to see at this time of year is we have fresh raspberries as well. So we do have raspberries, fall raspberries growing in, I don't know if you can see it very well, but over past the cars there, those are called high tunnels. And so there's a plastic roof over the top, much like a greenhouse. And we grow raspberries in there, and raspberries that we're harvesting this time of year instead of in the summer. We have summer raspberries as well, which are across the driveway past the pumpkins there. But the ones that we grow in the fall, I think, are even sweeter than the ones that we grow in the summer.
Sharon, what happens to the pumpkins that you don't sell, or maybe some of the other products that you don't sell?
Right. So we sell most of our pumpkins every year. I don't know if you noticed, you might have seen a few out in the field that have a bad spot on them, or there is the odd one that rots and that sort of thing. If it happens in the field, we just leave them in the field. If there's any up here around the market that have rotted or Occasionally there's one in the bin that's gone bad. So we gather all those up and we have a compost pile, which is further down the farm. So we just dump them all in the compost pile and we mix in some wood shavings. And then next spring, we'll take that compost out and we'll use it on the fields. For the ones that happen to go bad or go rotten out in the field, they just stay in the field. And if there's anything left in the field, even if they're good pumpkins, if they're left in the field after the end of October, we just run over them with an implement and then we work them into the ground. So we kind of chop them up a little bit first and then we just work them into the ground. So they just become more organic matter for the soil. So it makes the soil extra healthy for whatever the next crop is that goes in out there.
And we have another question, Sharon. Sorry to share so many. We just have so many great questions coming in.
That's great. Excellent.
Leslie asks, what is your definition of the perfect pumpkin?
Ooh, perfect pumpkin. Well, I can tell you this, everybody's perfect pumpkin is a little bit different. My perfect pumpkin, I like them to be nice and round. You'll notice that some are taller than others. Some are taller, some are shorter and rounder. This little guy over here is not real big, but he's got a really nice shape. He's nice and round. So that's one that I really like. Some people like them to be really tall. You can get tall and skinny varieties as well. That's what I like. I don't care so much if they're really big or if they're really small. I don't really get into the carving too much. I let my husband carve the pumpkin. So I just like to look at them. But yeah, I like them kind of nice and round. I think that's perfect.
Wonderful. And we're close to the end of our tour. So let's do 2 more questions with you, Sharon, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. So let's bring another question on. So Miss Thorson's class, do animals ever come and eat your pumpkins?
We have actually had trouble last year. So we are in an area that has a fair bit of moose. And we had, not here on this farm, but on the other fields that we grow pumpkins on, we had moose over there last year, and they actually would come and take bites out of the pumpkins. So yes, we have had trouble. We haven't had much trouble other than that. Occasionally you'll find one where the birds have pecked at it. So they'll have little bird holes in it sometimes. But that's the only trouble we've had with animals, with the pumpkins at least.
Wow, it must be very interesting to walk out and then you just see big chunks of pumpkin chomped out.
Yeah, it is. And that's what the moose do. They take one bite out of each one and then they move on.
Well, it'd be nice if they at least eat the whole pumpkin and just stop there instead of moving through all of them. But
it would, but that's what they do when they get into your cabbage field or anything like that too. They take one bite out of each one and they just work their way down the row.
Oh, wow. Well, let's do one more question from our students joining us from across Canada. So Asher asks, what made you want to be a pumpkin farmer?
Well, I guess it's a really good question. I guess I grew up on a farm and I've always worked in agriculture. And I guess, this opportunity came up for us to buy this farm. So we did. One of the products that this farm grew was a few pumpkins. They used to grow a couple thousand pumpkins. So we've expanded a lot since then. And partly because we just love pumpkin season on the farm. Pumpkin season is a fun time to be on the farm, like our pumpkin festival days. They're pretty chaotic. There's a lot going on, but it's a lot of fun. People just come for fun. They want to come, they want to look around, they want to find some people want to find the perfect pumpkin. Some people want to find the ugliest pumpkin they can find. Some people have something in mind for carving, and so they're looking for a specific size or shape or color. And really, it's just a lot of fun. People are just here for fun at pumpkin season. So that's partly why we really enjoy it.
That's such a fantastic question. And so It kind of almost leads to this. Sharon, are there any final words you'd like to share with everyone joining us from across Canada?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say thanks for tuning in and for visiting our farm. If you're interested in agriculture or farming at all, by all means look into it a little further. There's lots that agriculture can offer you, and I realize being only in grade 6 or younger, you're a long ways away from figuring out what you want to be, but don't forget about agriculture and farming when you get to that point. And there's lots of programs, college and university programs you can look at when you get to that point as well. So it's a really rewarding career. There's a lot of fun in it, and I know most farmers will tell you never have 2 days the same. Every day is always different.
Yes, I couldn't agree more heartily with that comment, Sharon. And for all of us joining us today, if you want to get agriculture more into the classroom, please go to your provincial agriculture in the classroom, which includes agriculture in the classroom in Newfoundland or any other provincial agriculture in the classroom. There's one in every province across Canada. So I've learned so much about pumpkins today. I really appreciate your time today, Sharon.
You're welcome.
I see that everybody is also saying thank you from across Canada. And before we close off this episode, and thank you for everyone waiting patiently, I'm excited to share the mystery word for your student activity books for today as practices or les pratiques. Thank you again for joining us on this episode of the Great Canadian Farm Tour. Our next stop will be on October 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at an egg farm in Nova Scotia. So we're just saying goodbye for now. Bye, everyone. Thank you for
Bye.
joining us.